So my mission in 2025 is to help this community of artists that I am so fortunate to work with make $1 million collectively. You might say, well, how in the world are you going to help artists make $1 million this year? And so I'm going to walk you through the very simple, very practical framework today that you can use in your own art business with or without my help. So let's move over to this screen grab that I did yesterday. So there are two things that we're focusing on, and it's very, very simple. One, getting more people's attention, right? And by more people, I don't mean random people. I mean what I call your UBAB, your ultimate badass buyer, right? Because we want as many of like your people in your world as possible. And the second thing we're going to focus on is making more offers to those people, letting them know how they can buy your work, right? Where it is, and giving them a reason to buy now. Because the more that you focus on these two things in 2025, if that is when you're watching this, like the more money you'll make, period. If you just focused on these two things. And what was really interesting is we did a call inside of our community and I asked people like, okay, how many offers did you make in 2024? And when I say offers, like how many times did you basically go out and say, hey, here's what I have for sale, come buy it? And the average answer was less than 20. So we got 365 days in the year. We're looking at less than 20 now. For me in my business at January 15th, I've already made close to 3,000 offers to individual people in some way, shape, or form, right? Now I don't say that to like overwhelm you and say that's what you need to be doing. It's just the idea that if you just focused on getting more people's attention and making more offers, you will make more money, right? There's no way around it. So let's look at like, okay, what goes underneath these two things? Let's start with getting more people's attention. Okay. So the thing we want to do is we want to obviously use social media and content. Now I'm a big fan of starting the process with organic. Why? Because if you get the organic mechanism to work, meaning like you learn how to make sales on social media of your art, then you can start to put some money behind it. But a lot of people want to jump ahead and get something like ads going, but they don't know how to get people's attention anyway. So it's like, you know, you're yelling at a group of people and nobody's paying attention and they can hear you, right? But now you think the problem is that you're not loud enough. So you just go get a friggin' bullhorn and, you know, you start yelling again. It's not going to change anything. If anything, people are just going to walk away, right? Ads are the thing that you can use to really pour gas on an already existing fire. What we want to think about is having content that works. And I have this as green because this is like where we need to be putting most of our time and effort, right? Then we have reposting old stuff, and I'm going to define these more. And then we have new content to test. Now you may say, Lennon, well, I don't have content that works. Well, then you got to start here, which is going to take more effort, right? Because it's just part of the game. And so you have to be okay with that. Like, all right, I'm doing this. It may not work as well as I want it to because I'm testing things, right? So I have, for instance, for January into February, like 30 content ideas written out. And we have a whole format inside our heart-based sales accelerator. But like I have all these ideas, I'm just going to test them, right? And then once I know what's working, I'll move them over to the content that works. And then we can start reposting stuff. So let's take a look at this and what these mean. So content that works means that you have a format and a message that you can do consistently. So a format is simply like, are you doing a story? Is it like a text on screen? Is it a carousel, right? And a message is simply like the thing that you say or talk about that gets the attention of your ultimate badass buyer, right? So we want, when we have content that works, it means we know that we have a format and a message that we can do consistently, and we can just kind of keep that up. And that way we're working less hard. We're not constantly trying new stuff, right? Then we have reposting old stuff. So reposting is super valuable, right? take advantage of content that's already worked and use it again, especially when you're doing this with like short form stuff. If you're on YouTube, it's a little different, right? But if you're doing like Instagram, TikTok, things like that, it's not a bad idea to repost stuff. I have a person that I was in a group with, and a business group, and she said she didn't use new content for I think like almost 2 months, because she just went back and reposted old stuff that worked because her life was just super busy. And so she just said, this already worked, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel, right? But again, we got to get there. So that's like what we're working toward. But you may have something that already worked to you, right? Because everybody's what works is going to be a little bit different. Okay. Then you have content to test. So we need to be trying out formats and messages that will reach your ultimate badass buyer and get you engagement that grows your account, right? And not only your account, but eventually your email list and all these other things, right? Okay. So that's how we're going to get more people's attention. If you're in a position where you don't have content that works, you're going to focus really hard on new content that you're testing. So you're trying out formats, you're trying out messages that will reach your ultimate badass buyer. And then once you find content that works, and we do that by looking at the numbers, we'll do a whole other video on that if you want. Let's use this format and message consistently. And then when things get busy, like take advantage of posting content that has already worked. Use it again, right? Okay. Now, how do we get into making offers? Because doing this is going to really get your account to grow. But how do we make sales? So we make sales 3 ways. 1, through scheduled sales, 2, through automated sales, and 3, through soft sales. Now, automated, like again, I put these as like they're what takes the most work. Automated is actually the easiest once it's built, but coming up with it does take work. So I didn't put it, because soft sales are just like, you'll see what I mean, but it's very, very simple. Okay. So for scheduled sales, we want dedicated releases and hard pushes. So you want to have times in your calendar where you're releasing either a collection, an album, something like that, and you want to push hard during that time, right? So I have a whole masterclass that talks about this. You can go watch it at stopthestarvingartist.com/sales. Again, stopthestarvingartist.com/sales. So I talk about how to build a scheduled release. Okay. And then you have automated, right? So automated means that somebody comes in, right? And let's say you're doing a scheduled release and they don't buy. Well, you could do a downsell. What's a downsell? Well, a downsell means that you say, well, okay, you couldn't afford this thing, or maybe you didn't want this. Like, what about this other thing? So you're just making them a separate offer, and that can be automated. You can have it set up to where, once they're in your world, you just have the same automated emails that go out and say, hey, check out this other work that I have inside of my website or on my, on my page. You could have upsells where it's like, hey, you bought this thing. Since you like it, what if you got the prints that went along with it? I don't know, any of that kind of stuff. Like what's the other thing that you could do? If you're buying a record from an artist, like, could you upsell them to the t-shirt package as well? And you give them a deal on it, right? And we do this also with just email campaigns. So let's say someone joins your email list, have like a 4 email sequence. And I'm working on a video later on how to use emails for your art business. But like you could have a 4 email sequence where at the end of that sequence, you make an offer. You're like, hey, go check out this work that, I released recently. I'm really proud of it. Here's the story behind it, yada, yada, yada. Okay. So that's automated. And then you have soft sales. So soft sales are like, where are you already sort of showing off your work, making content around it, stuff like that. And you can share something that you're proud of, something that's available like inside your stories and have a direct link to it. You could have an email mention when you send out your weekly email newsletter, right? Or you could do like a random drop where it's like, hey, I got this thing that I just want to get rid of. And so I'm going to throw it out there and see what happens, you know? So this is what soft sales are. It's not like a dedicated, like hard push. It's much more simple, much more just like, okay, here's this thing, go check it out if you want to, right? If you even go back, for instance, and you hear me say like, hey, if I have my master class, then that was a soft sell. It's like, here's this thing I'm talking about right now, but if you want this other thing, like go check it out. It's there. That's a soft sell. So these are the ways that we will make more offers. So here's the assignment for you. I want you to ask yourself, first of all, what's your goal? So at the time that I'm making this video, it is Q1, meaning like it's still January 2025. I don't care what time of the year it is when you watch this. If you don't have a plan, like this is a great way to start. What is your goal? What do you want to achieve? Okay. And then what is needed to hit that goal? Like maybe you need more potential buyers, right? And so you need to focus really hard on getting new people in your world, which means that you probably need to focus a lot on testing new content. Or if you already have content that works, you need to focus on more content that works, right? So, you know, what should you focus on to get that thing that you need? And then you ask yourself a couple really important questions, because I don't want you getting lost in just doing business stuff all the time. I want you to make sure that you're still being creative, that you're keeping your time where you want it to be. So ask yourself, how much time will it take of your dedicated business time to work on these things? And give yourself permission to say, I'm only going to really work on 3 major things this quarter, right? And a quarter is just 3 months, right? I'm really only going to work on 3 things this quarter. So if you're only working on 3 things, how much time will it take of your dedicated business time this quarter to do that thing you need to do? If it's content, how much time is it going to take you per week? How much time then do you have left? And then that allows you to see like where you can put other things in that need to get done. But it also allows you to prioritize what's really important. And then you can ask this question of how can you systematize and simplify the process? Let's say if you're working on content, for instance, like what are the things that you do over and over? You probably write a little script, or you take a photo, or you make a video, or you maybe even edit the video, right? You shoot the video, you edit it. So when you systematize these things, it can really help. And in the beginning, having a system makes it harder because you're getting used to creating a pattern. But in the long run, it is going to save you so much time. For instance, you know, my system for making content that I share inside the Heart-Based Sales Accelerator is to get really used to coming up with a lot of ideas, then go record a bunch of footage, and then organize that footage so you can reuse it, right? Organize footage that has you in it, and make different categories that would work for the kind of stuff that you're going to be making. So systematize, simplify it, and then go out there and do it. And what you're going to find that's really fascinating is that when you have all these things in place, all you're left with is the doing. And in the doing, you have a whole other thing come up, which is the fear of, will this work? Because now that you know how you're going to do this, you still are afraid it might not work. Now, that's a video for a different time, and we'll get into that. But, you know, for now, just chew on that, because I promise, like, if you do these things, you go out there and you make content that sucks, like, you're not going to get killed. Nobody's going to come at you. You know, you're not going to run your family into poverty. Like, you know, especially if things aren't working well yet anyway, like you might as well do the things that you know will make a difference. Okay. You can also check this video out and learn a little more about running your art business a little better. So I'll see you over in that one.